and welcome to the Popcorn Junkies, to this review of a movie called Predator Badlands. I think we reacted to the trailer to this. I saw the film Prey, which was the film before this one, also directed by Dan Trachtenberg. This sits within the Predator franchise, which also sits alongside the Alien franchise, and I think there have been Alien v Predator films anyway. So this has a great director attached to it in Dan Trachtenberg. He did things like 10 Cloverfield Lane. He's directed episodes of Black Mirror. I think he directed the pilot episodes of The Boys, that fantastic counterintuitive superhero series that we watched the first few series and then why did we drift away? Did it lose its kind of originality? I don't know. But this is Predator Badlands. This is part, once again, in the Predator universe. Now, I am not a Predator aficionado. I don't know the lore, I don't know the logic, I wasn't into the original film. I like the design, I like the kind of, the sort of technological dreads, I like the mask, the infrared, the high level sophisticated weaponry that sprouts out of every part of them. That I love their predatory nature and how they are ruthless and they hunt alone and they hunt and they hunt and they hunt. This film comes from Disney. It's a kind of, I think they're trying to kind of relaunch, repackage, re-propose the whole Predator world and universe, which I'm kind of okay with. There's a lot to like about the design and the universe. And in fact, there's a lot to like about this film. I'm going to say it up front. It stars Elle Fanning. She's probably the most notable name in there. It also stars someone who I don't know as the Predator, or a young Predator, Dek. It stars Dimitrius Schuster-Koloamatangi, who plays Dek, a young Predator, the runt of a litter. And this film really starts it with, by establishing the fact that Dek is a runt. And he has a brother who's kind of looking out for him. There's a brutalism, there's a barbarism, there's a kind of total lack of empathy or filial warmth between even brothers. They're quite argy-bargy with each other. But when you think Dek's brother's fucking, harsh and brutal and makes Dina look positively warm and gooey, that's my sister-in-law, then you meet the father, and the father's like, no, kill him, he's weak, he's shit, he brings shame on us, he can't hunt, he's useless. And then suddenly so dad tells older brother to kill Dek, older brother refuses, older brother fights dad kills older brother, Dek escapes in a spaceship and crashes into the Badlands. But he's decided to prove himself. He might be on his own, he might have crash landed in the Badlands, he might be stranded, but he's going to prove himself. He's basically going to prove that he can belong to the tribe. He's going to impress Daddy, basically. So he's going to go hunting for the Kalisk, a huge monster in the Badlands. And so really this is a very straightforward narrative film where our runt predator sets off into the Badlands of this planet, looking for this sort of mythical creature, the Kalisk. Now, if you sort of strip down the narrative there, what I liked about it and what I started to get on board with quite early on was I was thinking, we're going on an adventure. Okay, it might not have the warmth and the coziness and the hairy toes of hobbits. It has the brutal sort of high-tech design and the double jaw situation. I mean, I have to confess, the design of the predator, the creature himself is quite staggering. I mean, this is something that Predator aficionados will be well across, but you've got the gnashers in the mouth, and then you've got another sort of set of jaws and teeth and other gnashers that kind of move around like that. It's just kind of spidery, kind of xenomorphy, alien-y, kind of cool, kind of works. And the eyes are really deeply set and are impassive. They're cold, they're icy, and yet what I liked about Dek, and I think what this film does a good job of with the performance of Dimitrius Schuster-Koloamatangi as Dek, is we see that this runt predator can be made to feel things. His runtiness is actually what gives him a little bit of compassion, not a lot, a little bit of compassion. Now, he lands on this planet, I forget the name of it, it's kind of fucking brilliant, it's full, everything on it is deadly, whether it be flowers that swell up and then fire sort of paralyzing darts, whether it be razor grass, which I just thought was fantastic. You couldn't run through the field in a romantic sort of slow motion scene, you'd be literally sliced to pieces. Everything is dangerous. Bugs that come out of things that you think, oh, that's a nice grub to eat, explode. It's dangerous, it's hostile, it's inventive, it's creative, it's totally immersive. And for me, that's what a good sort of adventure film or fantasy film is all about. This was sci-fi / fantasy. I was totally taken away. I was outside of myself. And then he stumbles across Elle Fanning, who plays Thia. And Thia is a synthetic, a la Alien and all the rest of it. She's a Weyland-Yutani Corporation synthetic, which again means that there are lots of synthetics in this film. And the great thing about synthetics, as we saw with Alien Earth, is they bleed milk. I don't know if it's oat milk, I don't know if it's soya milk, but they bleed milk. Anyway, there's only half of Thia. She's lost her legs. And she's literally kind of in this strange sort of thing. She's kind of stranded. And she helps him, Dec. Dec helps her, but Dec doesn't feel compassion. And he doesn't want her to think that he's a runt or that he cares or that he needs help hunting. It's a huge point of prowess and pride that predators hunt solo. They go on their own. So the way he gets a little wraparound in terms of how he includes Thia in his kind of, on his journey or in his hunt of the Kalisk, is that he describes her as a tool. She's a tool. She was a tool for rescuing his life, and she's a tool for helping him go and get the Kalisk. And he agrees to carry her around, and he's going to reunite her with her legs, which I just love as a simple idea. Now, I have to confess, a number of people have said they thought Elle Fanning is really convincing, and she's and she's really great. Yeah. She is, and I like Elle Fanning, but she was a little bit too, if I'm honest, jolly hockey sticks, which is kind of ironic because you need legs to play hockey, and she hasn't got her legs. And so she was a little bit jolly hockey sticks, a little bit twee, a little bit too kind of, hi, yes, a bit too upbeat. And I could have done with a bit more of that thing that I like in synthetics and the whole Alien sort of franchise, which is, are they trustworthy? Are they double-crossing? Or questioning? And I think they could have afforded to have a little bit more kind of ambiguity around her loyalty and et cetera, et cetera. So they become the unlikeliest of kind of pairings. And they come across the Kalisk. But what Dec, our predator, discovers in trying to capture the Kalisk is that you chop its head off, which he does, and you think, oh, fucking hell, game over, film over, job done, mission accomplished, take head to Dad. Dad goes, all right, runty boy, you're not so much of a runt. But no, the Kalisk's head reforms, or rather, it reforms a neck that connects with its severed head. So it's very hard to kill. But what they discover and what they bump into en route through this incredibly hostile landscape, dangerous landscape, forever offering up new challenges, new ways to die, is they come across this strange sort of creature that when it rolls up, it's very hard. And if you bite it, it makes your teeth fly out. Well, that's what happens to a big monster in this. They call it Bud. And what we discover is Bud is a very cutesy, very kind of Gollum-y kind of creature that tries to sort of belong, wants to be mates with the predator, Dec, but Dec doesn't, Dec has codependence issues. Well, no, Dec has avoidance issues. He's a love avoidant. I mean, Dec, the predator, is a love avoidant. And in fact, I think it's the nature of most predators. They don't want family ties. They don't want to be pinned down. They don't want the baggage of relationships. They don't want to feel love. They've just got one mission, and that is to hunt. And they don't want anything to get in their way. But Bud, this creature, and Thia really want to be they want a relationship with Dec. And what's nice again, I'm being genuine here, that what's nice in the performance of Dec, the predator, is that you can see, and how much of this has been CGI'd on, or how much of this was actually the actor's sort of eyes. You see what makes him a runt, but it's actually the parts of his character that makes him quite likable and quite lovable and quite fun. There are fun moments in this. I think at times the script kind of delivers Dec as a sort of slightly less humorous and hapless and slightly less stupid version of Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. There's a lot of kind of gags in the script in this film around the misunderstanding of the logic of things or the emotional truth of things, which is ironic because effectively you've got a predator, which isn't human, you've got a synthetic, an Elle Fanning that isn't human, and you've got Bud, which we discover, spoiler, that Bud is essentially a baby Kalisk, or is the Kalisk's baby. And Bud spits on Predator to seal the bond, to kind of make the familial sense of unity close. But what comes into the film at the point that we think, oh, well, the Kalisk can't die, and, it's not that dangerous, he managed to kill it, but he can't kill it, and now he's friends with the Kalisk's baby, is they bring in Elle Fanning's sister. Now, of course, she's a synthetic sister, and her synthetic sister, Tessa, opposes Thia. And so Tessa kidnaps the predator, Dec, kidnaps Thia, and so the rest and the end of this film is really our predator trying to escape from the clutches of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, escape from Tessa. I think Elle Fanning does a really good job of playing two very converging and divergent roles. Tessa is like wide-eyed and kind of just horrible and frightening and scary and brutal. And so consequently, the kind of film runs towards this kind of massive kind of conclusion between our predator. Lots of synthetics get squished. There's milk going everywhere. Thia, sort of her legs, actually, there's great long protracted action scenes where just pairs of legs are running around. It's kind of weird, but it kind of works. And the whole thing is total escapist fun. I'm sure that Predator aficionados will be like, ugh, this has been turned into goofy, Disney-fied, goofy, silly Guardians of the Galaxy fun. It's not as silly as Guardians of the Galaxy. It tries to sort of stay quite straight. We have a nice kind of circular narrative in that once, our predator is essentially beaten the enemy, I won't tell you how that plays out, has beaten the enemy, but hasn't necessarily captured the Kalisk. In fact, there is baked into this story, our predator is not only a runt, but he almost gets he almost becomes a conservationist. You could imagine him working for Greenpeace or Just Stop Oil. Anyway, he goes back to Daddy to basically say, look, I've got the head of this synth of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. And he thinks Daddy's going to be all right with him, but Daddy refuses to give him the acknowledgement that he deserves. And so a fight breaks out, and Deck does a good job of decking his dad, and his dad appeals to him, a great bit of kind of vengeful revenge. I have to say, the design of all of the Predators is great. The dad was great. Where he lived was fantastic. It was a sort of strange, sort of battered shack in the middle of God knows where. I found the design wonderful. I found the realization of the universe fantastic. I found it really inventive in its creation of creatures that were forever hostile and threatening, and everything is, just to live, walk, eat, breathe and drink water is difficult and hard. It's a harsh environment. I thought the Predator creature Deck did a great job of being both brutal and efficient and the runt of a pack, but as I say, in his runtiness was his appeal. There was a moral sort of backbone there. There was a warmth, as much as you could get warmth in a Predator, and I think that's what probably Predator fans won't be up for. Elle Fanning was great in these dual roles of kind of opposite sides, the yin and yang of the synthetic sisters, if you like, though I found her Thia, sort of the goody version of her, a little bit twee and a little bit annoying, but I found Tessa quite nasty and malevolent and white-eyed and fantastic. Lots of great tech moments with things going into ears and stuff being cut up, and I liked it. I liked all the tech, I liked the universe, I liked the world. And it ended with a fantastic gag, which was essentially, spoiler, basically saying, if you think my dad was bad, which he was horrible. He killed his brother, he was going to kill him, and he was only asking for, like, please, let's be welcome to the tribe once he's lost his arm, because Deck managed to chop his arm off. If you thought his dad was bad, Deck basically says, see that ship over there landing in the distance just before the credit roll? Yeah, that's my mum. You ain't seen nothing yet. So it tees up the possibility of a sequel. I found this an absolute rip-roaring piece of good fun. I thought this was quintessential Saturday morning chuck away sci-fi adventure fantasy. It didn't take itself seriously. I'm sure it's alienated and annoyed lots of Predator fans, but actually, if this is a gateway drug, if you like, into the Predator universe, I think this and the film before, I really enjoyed Prey, which I think was also by the same director. I found them really competent, really efficient. I find him a really efficient director. I liked 10 Cloverfield Lane. I liked his episodes of The Boys. I also quite liked, I seem to remember, the Black Mirror that he did too. So he's a tight director. He's got a good grasp on storytelling. He's got a good grasp on look, style. It felt slick. It felt convincing. It was, although obviously loads of CGI was used, you didn't feel the contrast of it with the reality. The fight sequences were good. There were some really neat scenes, like they chop a monster in half at one point. It goes into slow-mo and of course it's CGI, but it goes into some really quite brilliantly graphic, almost graphic novel-esque kind of tableaus as it moves into slow-mo and stuff like that. So I just saw this late at night in central London. The cinema was full of young adults, lots of couples, giggling, laughing, oohing, ahhing. Proper kind of multiplex material. So if I was to score this, I'm scoring it in its own terms, not alongside like Die My Love, which has it's a completely different film. But in its own terms, for what it is, I think this was great fun. And I would give this 80 out of 100.